So let's talk about problem finding. And problems come from all over the place, but I've kind of categorized them into four key areas. First is what I call an alert response. And this is where a problem occurs that threatens your ability to serve your customer. So that means things are going to shut down if you're manufacturing, things are going to shut down if you're in a service industry serving food or something else. Something breaks and you were unable to satisfy your customer. So that means it's pretty important. So it requires an immediate report and immediate response. And so we put in place an andon system that allows whoever experiences the problem to signal to their supervisor and the rest of management that they've discovered a problem and they might need help. And then we respond to that. So we apply short-term countermeasures to this to get it under control. And then we want to do follow-up analysis to find that root cause and make sure we get a permanent solution. This last block there, that's the biggest problem of this, because we are so used to slapping a short-term countermeasure in response to some problem that happens, and we're so busy, we never take the time to go back and really figure out what the root cause of that problem was, and so it's going to come back, and it's going to come back, and it's going to come back, and it's going to come back. So regardless of how busy you are, you've got to be able to stop, pull a quick team together, get some folks to think about this problem, do some more detailed analysis, find that root cause, come up with some alternative countermeasures that you can test, and then implement the biggest one, the most effective one. The next category is a measured response. I call it measured response because it should flow from the way we measure performance in our work system. So the problem is visible through the process metrics. It could also be a nuisance problem, but doesn't really threaten a customer. So something smaller in scope. It might be an individual that reports the problem, and you've probably got people in here who say, we've had this problem for years, nobody ever does anything about it. Well, that's what these are about. So your coach is going to work through the problem with the individual, escalating the problem if necessary, and then together you're going to develop and implement countermeasures. It's pretty straightforward. This is what I'm talking about. As we measure things, you can see the green line, that is our standard, our expected level of performance. Whenever we're not on that green line, it's a problem. So you can see we're down below here where we can't maintain the standard on those 5 data points. So we've got to figure out how to close those gaps. But what about that one above the line? A lot of people say, oh, hey, that was a great day. I want to know why it was a great day. Because if we did it once, what can we do to do it again and do it again and do it again? If we have the demand for more, let's find a way to exceed our standard. When I talk about containment, okay, whenever we have a problem like that, we want to contain it to make sure that it doesn't go anyplace else. So here's a definition from the Quality Engineer Primer from the American Society for Quality. Containment are measures taken to screen and eliminate defective products via such techniques as inspection and removal. Keep in mind that containment is necessary, but it's waste. And we want to be able to eliminate the need for containment processes. But in the meantime, until we can do that, until we can deliver perfect quality through our work system, we've got to have a defined process for containment. Remember, it's a temporary fix. Containment is not a management philosophy. Containment actions include all kinds of things. What I see most often is we just stop delivering. We pull everything in and we inspect 100% of everything before we send it to the customer again. Might lead to more frequent tool change, might lead to eliminating a particular supplier, might lead to introduction of sorting actions everywhere in the supply chain. So containment can be pretty involved and pretty expensive. The third way problems find their way to us is through individual ideas. Now that sounds a little bit weird, right? But what I've learned is that the vast majority of ideas that people have are because there's a problem they experienced that actually stirred that idea to come forward. So the individual has an idea and they're willing to share it with us. We're going to try to talk them through the problem that their idea is supposed to solve. And then the coach is going to work with that individual through this thought process of figuring out what that problem was, what the root cause is, and then if the idea will solve the problem at the root cause, it's a good idea. If it doesn't solve the problem at the root cause, then we have an opportunity to develop a dialogue about more countermeasures and how we're going to test those countermeasures and evaluate those countermeasures. So we take that next step on whether or not we're going to implement a solution for this. It could just be a bad idea. But I never want to tell anybody they have a bad idea. That's just not smart. That's not a way to get them to give you another idea. So you've got to coach them so that they see themselves that, well, this idea is bad right now. What else could we do? The fourth way is a management response problem. This is where management actually creates the problem by setting a new goal. So we're operating on standard, we're not having any problems. Now we need to create a problem. So we'll jack up the standard a little bit, and then we'll develop countermeasures to allow us to close that gap. Maybe it's just you're making slow or no progress on one of your goals, one of your annual or quarterly goals. You can pull that out and say, all right, let's get some really focused attention on making progress on this particular goal now. And you assign a team to work through the problem-solving process and see if you can't make some progress. So I think most of the, well, here's an example of that. Okay, so notice January through May, we're trucking along, doing great. If there's no problems, that's a big problem. It means we're not stretching the system enough. And so we're going to come in and up the standard from 5 units to 8, and we know that we can't get there right away. So we have to build a plan. So you see, we want to make a glide slope from May to the end of the year. It says by the end of the year, we want to be able to consistently hit 8. And you can see, while we're down below, if you're on the plan, you're okay. You're not going to show up as red all the time on your metrics because you're on the plan. But the idea is to push, build those skills, stretch yourselves, change processes, change methods, and achieve that new standard. I think most of us are going to have a management response kind of problem or a measured response kind of problem, particularly with our projects. Next up is a theme. I want to be able to pick a theme from which we're going to work. Management response problems are easy for this. We're not doing very well in maintenance, so let's focus our theme on preventive maintenance scheduling. Or we're having some replenishment problems in one of the clinics, and we'll select the clinic or something. Okay, so the theme is this broad area that we're going to do our analysis in. If we haven't had a problem hit us in the face, then we're going to say, well, let's go over here in this area and let's see what we can find. Goes up at the top left corner. That's the theme. Again, it's a broad kind of brush, and then there's an ultimate goal that goes with that as well. So here's an example. OEE in the packing department. OEE is overall equipment effectiveness or operating equipment effectiveness. It's a measure of the overall productivity of the equipment in the system. So maybe that's what we want to look at. Maybe our numbers are telling us it's a little bit low, but I don't have to put that it's a little bit low in the theme. I'm just going to look at OEE in the packing department, or customer complaints, or the marking line operations, whatever it might be. Our ultimate goal then is going to be the reflection of what we think we can achieve. It's probably going to flow from the corporate goals, right? So if we're focused on OEE, maybe we set in this goal that we want to improve OEE by 4%. And if you know anything about OEE, improving it by 4% is huge. The biggest part of understanding the current situation is getting the leaders to actually go out and understand the situation. Tracy Richardson, and we mentioned her before, and she's got a huge following on LinkedIn and is always posting great information. She has this, in her book, The Toyota Engagement Equation, she talks about GTS squared, GTS cubed, GTS all the way to the 6th power. And she's talking about different things that start with GTS, like grasp the situation and go to see what's going on, get to the solution. So she's got this methodology where she's going to get more people out into the workplace to see. And again, I don't care what you call it. A lot of people don't feel comfortable saying it's a Gemba walk. So some people say go and see. Some people just say go see. That's what Fujio Cho says. My friends at Rolls-Royce, they say go look see, because they want you to make sure you stop while you're there to look to understand what's going on. And then looking and seeing are often different things. So here's something from Fujio Cho. He talks a little bit about lean leadership. This is what we're grooming you for, to be good, lean leaders. Go see, so management must spend time on the floor, ask why, and show respect. So when you ask why, you don't have to be a jerk about it. Ask because you don't know. If you already know the answer, then ask them a different question. So ask so you can learn, and you're learning from them, and by acknowledging that you are learning from them is showing them respect. Great little technique to get people to follow you. Another grand kind of scale technique that I want to talk about is our ability to zoom in and zoom out. So go from a little problem to take a step back to see how is that affecting the larger system? Or if we're on a larger system, how do we decide what to zoom in on one thing? So we'll talk a lot about value stream mapping, and value stream mapping is generally a big look at something. And on a value stream map, you'll see a bunch of different problem areas. Okay, and then we want to be able to zoom in on one of those small problem areas to break it down and solve it. If we happen to be in a Gemba and we see one of these small little problems, we might then choose to pull a team together and say, hey, let's map this process to see how many other related problems are associated with this and see where we can start to improve this first. So in this piece, we talked about understanding the current situation and the fact that this is a non-linear kind of thing. We talked about alert response and containment measures. We talked about measured response, individual ideas, management response, the theme, ultimate goal, GTS, and zoom in and zoom out. What's up next? We're going to talk a little bit more in detail about process analysis. Stay tuned.